So I want to acknowledge, like I said, our sponsors, and we're fortunate to have one of the co-directors of the Extended Reality Initiative, Francesca, right there. And it's a really cool initiative. It brings together people from across campus interested in all kinds of immersive technologies, just like this today. And I also want to acknowledge our other co-sponsor through the CFAR, Center for AIDS Research. That's a HIV research-focused collaboration between UCLA and Charles Drew. I'm heading up a scientific working group through that committee. So if you are interested in AI, HIV-related research, please let me know. We'll sign you up. And also for XRI, I would strongly encourage you to sign up. I think we have some people on Zoom, like Lauren, too, who's here, different people. So for either one of those, sign up. I got to give a plug. So today, for our talk with James Beckman, I met James in January when I was at the Society for Simulation in Healthcare meeting in Florida, I think it was.
Yep.
And you know, there's a lot of people presenting, a lot of vendors. What drew me to what James is doing is I really see it as a disruptive technology. And what I mean by that is with Sims, sorry if I'm stealing what you're going to talk about.
No, you're good. Just, you're on a roll. Yep.
So how I see it disruptive is that for a long time when we simulate patients for these different scenarios, it's either been screen-based or we talk about putting on goggles. Well, as I've gotten older, I can't tolerate VR as well. So I'm not as crazy having to put something on my head. And the screen-based is okay. I think that's highly scalable, and that's not going away. But what's really cool with holograms, whether it's on a screen or other modality, it's just, to me, it's something different. And it's very immersive in its own right. And I remember when I was at the society meeting, James actually created a hologram on the spot. That's what kind of drew me in. He's like, step in front of the camera and boom, there's a hologram of you. So I'm excited to have you here with us today. James is the CEO of Dr. Hologram. And I'll just turn it over to you. The rest of the time is yours.
All right.
So let's give James a hand for being here.
Thanks very much, Scott. Nice meeting you. It's a real honor to be here at UCLA. Years ago, my older cousins attended here, but I live down in Florida, and somehow it never worked out me getting here, but you guys are very fortunate to have a beautiful campus, great environment that brings these kind of things here, so thank you very much for having me. So we started Dr. Hologram about 4 years ago, and our website is drhologram.com for those of you on Zoom or later on you want to be able to reach out to me. So our first university that came on board with us was the University of Central Florida in Orlando. And they were the first university to go ahead and initiate this type of program with this type of device, and a large device, about 7 feet tall, as Scott was mentioning, for interprofessional education, which reaches nursing, rehabilitation, any number of different specialties where students now, without the need of headgear and whatnot, so you hear about VR and XR, we just call what we're going to do R, which is just real, Now, with Dr. Hologram and our products and services, we're a vehicle for all of you here in the room, all of you listening, and it really doesn't matter whether it's the College of Medicine, then extended to nursing, social work, law school, business, it really doesn't matter. So we work with colleges and universities that are looking to prepare their students for the workforce, wherever they happen to be going. So while we're here today, and it's going to be a little bit medical related, as you're thinking about applications in fields that you're already spending time with, or maybe inspired to think about, gee, this could be good for this, or this could be good for that, that could lend a lot of value that you can bring to your network. Kind of operating outside of the box, even though we're playing with it inside a box. So I'm going to play some content for you, and then we're going to have some fun with some interactive, and then as we're talking about the products and services, I'm going to touch on a number of different use cases that, again, just to get your minds thinking as we kind of explore this together. So we'll start off with a little introduction here.
Hey everybody, TV's Howie Mandel here. Well, not so much TV's Howie Mandel, Proto's Howie Mandel. You are looking at the most innovative communication, sales, education, entertainment technology in the history of the world. And that, I truly believe that. I'm not just saying that because, actually I'm not even getting paid. I am standing here in a Proto for absolutely nothing because this is what I believe in. As somebody who is a world-renowned germaphobe, my goal was to be everywhere without going nowhere. Proto has solved that. The beauty of this, even though what you're watching right now is pre-taped, I can do this and do this live each and every day where I can talk to people, communicate people, entertain people without any latency. This is Zoom on steroids. This means more subliminally. I could see everybody in the room and interact in real time with everybody in an office, in a theater, or out on the streets. You can interact with this proto technology as much as you want to. You could stand there and be entertained or informed. Your customers can touch the screen and interact with the screen. There could be QR codes where you can let people scan and get their analytics, anything that you need, or you could sell them things. This checks so many boxes. I predict that at the very near future, this is going to be on every desk, every table, in every home, every office. This should be in every outdoor space that's available to traffic walking by. Everybody that sees this, and I am talking from experience, wants to be part of this. From, we use this on AGT to Ellen to major concerts in front of hundreds of thousands of people to hospitals, educators. I don't know what more to say to you, but don't just watch this. Be part of the proto revolution. I am, you should be, and now I'm just standing here awkwardly in a box. Just to give me a minute. I'm just enjoying my proto experience. I hope you are too.
So that was pretty cool, right? So did anybody have a question about how that was done? Did you see the depth, the shadowing? Did it look more real than it would be if you were on Zoom? Go ahead.
He keeps talking about Proto. What is that?
Proto's our manufacturer. So Dr. Hologram represents these devices and then a product line of software, conversational AI software, that we're going to show you in a minute. So we've stitched together the vehicle, if you will, but it's not curriculum per se. It's not, here's coursework and go ahead and distribute it. So what we do, and we'll get into a little bit more in some other examples, is we challenge all of you in the room, everybody listening, the different colleges, around any particular college, that if they want to modernize their simulation, if they want to reimagine engaging with students, and how do you do that on scale when there's a limited amount of space in yet beautiful places like this? So we offer alternatives for a vehicle to be able to do sampling here in a room, just like we are in here with something small, a larger device, but also be able to allow you to scale it up to hundreds, thousands of students simultaneously, where they're getting in their sim interactivity on their own time, on their own devices, without limitations, and actually bringing costs down while being able to reach more students, democratizing essentially the simulation experience. So where it's just not available just to a few, but it gets to everybody, and in multiple languages as well. So any questions so far on what you saw? All right? So what we'll do is explain for a minute about how that was shot, because that's really important. So basically, it's on a 10 by 15 footprint, with a white backdrop. So Howie was standing on a piece of acrylic, right? So you could see that shadow. There was a light box that was shining a light on him that casted that shadow. All right. So, and what he was standing in front of was a screen that would allow him to set in the middle, and that right up here there are cameras, and through his reverse feed he would be able to see everyone in the room. So if sir, he would be able to say, sir in the blue shirt, what's your question? So this is literally the back and forth. So one of the first beams I did was out of LA. By the way, their offices and the studios in Van Nuys, so we can all arrange to take a visit there and really see some amazing things. But I beamed from LA right into Orlando for a back and forth. Everybody had their cameras out. It was an amazing experience. But how that boils down to the student side for a moment is that when products like this are launched with the students are getting a transformative experience, because between the sound, the look, the feel, the engagement, it is well beyond what would be considered using standardized patients, which are very expensive. So reducing the cost and elevating the experience, the experiential part of it is very important. Many of our colleges have looked at doing different things, different interactions with the students interacting with these proto devices. One included eye tracking, for example. So if you had a Parkinson's patient in front of you, or psych, or any number of different things that it would matter where the students are actually looking, right? You can have and introduce eye tracking with a heat map. So are they looking at the right places when they're asking questions? Can't do that with a standardized patient. Other schools that we work with are leveraging tools with respect to physiology. Is their heart racing if they're breaking bad news, or there's some other stressful situation? So those are two of the things that you're able to do, but really the sky's the limit. So we allow you, again, we bring the vehicle, but it's your departments, it's your brain trust, it's all the knowledge that you develop programs. And what our role is quite simple. You provide us what the case is. You give us what the scenario is. Literally could be on 2 pages and that's it. We will develop those cases, return them to you exactly how you want it, that aligns with your coursework, and then be able to scale it up to all the students, first showing it on one of the devices, and then being able to allow students to play with these things, in real time where they are. Any interesting questions?
So James, I'm
Yes.
sure you're going to get to this too.
Mhm.
So that was a pre-recorded video. Maybe just talking a little bit about the interaction and what's driving that under the hood, like large language models.
Well, exactly. So one thing I'll touch on before is that Howie made mention of live beaming. So let me touch on this for a second. So we have the patents on what we call live beaming, or telepresence, or for fun teleportation. And what that means is, instead of recording on that white backdrop that you saw Howie in, he would be able to live beam. And that is done over the internet, no fancy equipment needed. The studio is on a tripod with an iPad essentially, and a few pieces of equipment like that. So if you wanted to, here at UCLA, host lecturers, or a number of different people from around California, around the US, or around the world, now you would have the ability to import them in. So you're breaking down the barrier of travel, of the expense of scheduling, things of that nature, to bring to the students the very best. On the other side, they can literally beam off their iPhone. That's how great it is today. So bringing down the barriers of communications, whether it's from school to school or across the country or multiple countries or around the world. We have accomplished this, and this is what's going on right now. So the live beaming aspect is really important in academia, as well as the pre-recording and whatnot. Let me see if I can show you a couple of other things here. We are going to have a little fun for a second. See how the internet's working. All right. Now what's this? This is a mascot from one of our partners at Florida Gulf Coast University at State College in Florida. And what they were interested in is bringing to life their mascot and putting it on the website, no matter what the website happened to be, and allow students or parents to ask questions, not through the FAQs, not through a chatbot typing, but literally conversational AI and interacting, and they wanted to have their mascot as the lead. So imagine if we were to take, was it the little bear, the Bruin, that's here, right? There is some mascot. So imagine our making the Bruin come to life. And we also control many of the patents associated with animation, doing gestures and almost human-like, back and forth. That you're not just speaking directly with a cartoon, but these type of animations are able to do different things. So we'll play with this for a second and see what happens. Hi, can you tell me what you do, what you're for? And he's not talking today. We don't know why. Okay, we will move on from there. But anyway, that's what that will do. Let's see if we can come up with a different one here. All right. Hi, can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
I am Protobot, a hologram created by Prota, here to assist with any questions you may have.
We are at UCLA. Can you tell us about the UCLA Simulation Center?
The UCLA Simulation Center provides state-of-the-art simulation training for healthcare professionals.
So this is programmed with a large language model that you can ask it any number of different things. So let's have some fun. Does somebody have a question? Challenge this thing. Come on, let me have one.
What did you eat for breakfast?
What did he eat for breakfast? Okay, that's a good question. Hi, one of our friends here would like to know what you had for breakfast this morning.
I had a virtual bowl of digital cereal for breakfast this morning.
We are here at UCLA, as I said. Can you tell us a joke about UCLA? A clean joke, a family-friendly joke. What would you tell us about the school?
Why did the UCLA student bring a ladder to the football game? Because they heard the bleachers were great for climbing up to success.
All right, so imagine now having an animation version that's tied to everything that you do. Almost like an assistant that you can put out. So imagine whether it's this image or really any other image, being able to now conversationally interact. So while we just asked a couple of questions of this bot, you literally can get into deep conversation. So who has more of a complicated question?
I'll throw one out.
Okay, come on.
I'll say, should I come up? Or
Yeah, come on up. Hit the button and
Okay,
speak
cool.
to this protobot after it dings.
Hi, Protobot. Are you conscious like a human being?
I may not have human consciousness, but I'm here to provide helpful answers and assistance.
If you were going to become a human being, what characteristics and traits would you like to be?
I'd like to be friendly, witty, and always ready to help others.
So, and this is going to lead into the next thing that we're going to show. Any questions on this? By the way, yeah.
Didn't you have the bot do different body movements, or like ask her to, I don't know, like do a dance or pretend to have a stomach ache or something?
In this particular case, no, but the answer in short is yes. And that's part of the development tools that we bring to the table as far as standardized patients and wanting to, basically put them through a series of, if I'm answering this right, different tasks, if you will, for assessments and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
So, what is the holographic part of all of this?
Well, that's a good question. So when we speak of holographic, okay, and this is, everybody has a different point of view. With this is delivering an experience that is making your mind feel that you're speaking to either a person or a character with depth, that if it's real, more than, let's say, what you would be seeing on the screen. So the word hologram, has different points of view from, who you think about. So if you think about Star Wars back in the day with Princess Leia, that was a hologram. It wasn't conversational, right? You have in Las Vegas, you have shows that put on Michael Jackson and a number of different things. The founder of Proto comes from a holographic background, but this is a way in order to bring the realism, to really up the game from 2D to more of a volumetric experience with sound and so forth, that really, lends a lot. So we're gonna go to another screen here for a second. And we're gonna show you.
You're saying it mainly provides a 3D feel. Is that primarily the...
Well, it's going to provide a feel where you feel that you're in the same room, with them, rather than just 2D. The point of these devices is to really, from a display perspective, in order to give everybody in the room a different experience. So when you were just looking at that Protobot for a second, you wouldn't necessarily see that on a 2-screen. You wouldn't necessarily be able to interact with it. Now, if you think about that sample and you think about, gee, what kind of reference tool could that be made for in the line of work that you're all in? Remember, sky's the limit. You're not getting it from us. So whatever you would like to create that would engage today's learner, which are younger people learning differently via video, via what we're all attached to on our phone with social media, this is what you're keeping up with. And that's really disturbing, if you will, in the industry. So, we're pretty happy with that.
James,
Yeah.
to tie into your question, I think we all have to have a bit of imagination today, because James is traveling, so he brought the smaller box, and so you're seeing something inside a small box. But I could see eventually, to create the realism where it's a much bigger box, and so when you're talking to that person, they're actually life-size. And then you really get that sense like you're talking to a real person. Would that kind of be where we'd be heading?
That would be our 7-foot display, and it's amazing. They're all quite amazing. Yes, ma'am.
This actually calls back to one of our lectures where we were discussing kind of how much realism people would be comfortable with. So I guess for the kind of LLM chat bot that you have, or like the kind of cartoonish projection, do you see the company like making that more realistic or lifelike, or do you think you would keep it in that kind of bot avatar?
Well, we're going to show you the more lifelike stuff now. But that's a good question. So that's what's gravitated to where we are right now. So we're going to have a little fun here for a second. Let's see. All right, so we decided to make a digital twin of me having a bad day. basically. And the reason I wanted to show you this version of me is that if you want to have a standardized patient that actually resembles a patient, or something that you want to be able to reference that this was a real experience, not a persona that was generative AI, manufactured, we have the ability to do that. So I think this could be expanded a little bit. Now, what we're going to do is, Sick Jim here, as we call it, he's just having a bad day. He's got a cold, he's not feeling well, and this will allow us, or if we were the student, to do, a minor assessment. So we'll just go through this real quick. It's very simple, but it can be as little or as much complicated, as you want it to be. So.
My name is Jim. Thank you for meeting me today. I am not feeling well and would appreciate some help.
Thank you for coming in, Jim. Can you tell us what's the matter with you today? How long has this been going on? What kind of symptoms are you experiencing? Help us understand what is it that we should look out for before we recommend treatments.
Yeah, thanks for seeing me. So, I've been feeling pretty awful for about 3 days now. I have a high fever, like it's around 102.3 degrees, and I've got chills, body aches, and I'm really tired. My throat hurts too, and I have this dry cough, and I can't breathe well through my nose. I've also lost my appetite. I've just been surviving on soup and tea, I'm kind of worried it might be something more serious, but I'm not sure. What should I be looking out for?
Well, have you been taking any medicine, anything over the counter from the drugstore? Can you tell us a little bit about that? How have you been coping before you came in today?
Yeah, I've been taking Tylenol for the fever and some NyQuil for the cough and congestion. It's helped a little, I guess, but I still feel awful. I've just been trying to rest as much as I can, using a humidifier and throat lozenges too. But it's really tough to get comfortable. I thought it might just pass, but I feel like it's getting worse.
And have you been around any sick children lately? Have you been traveling? Where do you think you would have caught this from?
No, I haven't been around any sick kids, but I did go to a few crowded places last week, just running errands and stuff. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I'm starting to wonder if I picked something up there. I just feel really drained and I'm not sure what to think.
Now, can you tell us about your drinking habits? Do you smoke? Do you take recreational drugs? Can you tell us anything that we should know in advance of any lab work?
I don't smoke or do any recreational drugs. I do drink a little, like socially, but not a lot. I guess I've been trying to stay hydrated, but honestly, I haven't been drinking as much as I should with feeling so sick. I just want to feel better,
Okay, what's someone's impression of that initially? Yes, go ahead.
Personally, for me, it was very easy to kind of forget that it wasn't like an actual person on the other side, like through a Zoom chat or something like that. It definitely felt like you could still tell that it wasn't like a real person, but it's very easy to kind of forget that distinction.
Yeah. So the point with the simulation, in this case with Sick Jim, is to allow the students to, in a forgiving environment, talk to them, ask them about things that maybe they would feel awkward about asking. Do they take drugs or do they drink, or tell me about your personal habits, things like that. So what we do is that when you develop your case or your scenario, again, it could be anything, you provide it to us. Now, we would create the persona, so it could be young, old, all walks of life, and be able to return it along with the scenario, along with a proper knowledge base that would address the back and forth. The other part, which I would be happy to share with everybody, if you reach out to me, is our system reports. Now, this is where it really gets amazing. So you could have a group of everybody here in the same room, and let's say you were interacting with Sick Jim for an hour or 4 hours, and we're all having all these different conversations, which you can have simultaneously. We'll be able to produce a report that will literally grade everyone as a group and individually based on the scoring model that you provide us as faculty or as leadership in running, a coursework on exactly what it is that you're looking for. So in this case, let's say I was the student. Did I show empathy? Did I ask open-ended questions? Did I ask too many closed-ended questions? Was I professional? A number of different things that you really want to be able to qualify and grade, if you will, how your students are doing in all sorts of situations. Now, you can't necessarily get that in front of a standardized patient. You have a handful of students, an actor, the recording is not necessarily individual and personalized. But in this case, it is. So imagine being able to scale 1,000 students simultaneously to have conversations like this. And not only based on how they did in their coursework on campus, but when they go home, did that extend to their work, their own simulation? So now with very little lifting on the faculty side, you're going to be able to get beautiful reports that will show, who did very well, and then where are there areas of improvement. Funny enough, we had one of our school partners, they had about 30 students, and they were all quizzing one of these avatars, and they asked maybe 1,200 questions in 4 hours. I mean, the students, 1,200 questions in 4 hours. It was insane. But this is the magic of conversational AI. It draws it in. So we could have been talking to Jim, for 2 hours, and he'll talk your ear off, if we program it to. But interestingly enough, when we ran the reports, all right, the student that did the worst, and I'm going to say worst by way of their scoring, is the student that asked the most questions, funny enough. So the student that was rattling off questions left and right were mostly closed-ended questions. They were not based on the scope of work trying to get Sick Jim here to, what's the matter, where you been around, how do you live your life, things of that nature. So being able to utilize the hologram devices coupled with the conversational AI is not going to make it more modernized and engaging for the students, but for the faculty that you guys live on data, all of you are on data. So while the device is, cool and the imagery is neat and fun, it all comes down to the data, because this is what you're reporting out. This is what you're publishing. This is what you're speaking on at various conferences. So for us to be able to couple this with really the information you need, not only to be impactful to the students, but also meeting with the spirit of what your department is trying to achieve as far as retention, success when they go out into the workforce. Tools like this should be a tool in your toolbox, but again, all customized to the unique nature of whatever it is you dream up. Yes?
For those reports, are they based on sort of the textual output that you're getting from the questions that are being asked? Or is it also, I think you mentioned there's a camera on the front of these, is it also sort of body movement and how people are interacting with the hologram in that way as well?
It's
facial expressions and those sorts of things.
It's great. It's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. So we will take, I'll try to answer your first question. So we'll take a student's interaction or a group, or really both, you really want just to see how well you're doing. we will run it through our AI system, if you will, that is going to be able to call out how that student is performing. Are they being professional? Are they meeting with all of the requirements? By the way, you all dictate that to us. So we essentially provide you a scoring form, and you tell us, this is how I want to see the data. This is what's most important to me. So when you do get your reports, it isn't from Dr. Hologram. Again, we're the vehicle for you guys. So you customize it, send it to us, and that is what it will accompany. A couple of new features that will be starting in January that I'll mention today, there are more coming, is that when you will see the patient like this, there's also going to be an icon where the student can pull up an electronic medical record. So now if the student wants to see a prior X-ray or labs or any number of different things that would be in their history, now the student will be able to do that. All right. You mentioned something about video and being professional. What you're going to see from us really starting in January is when the student is doing their engagement, won't necessarily be on this device, but when they're at home on their iPads or their laptops, they're going to have a side-by-side where they're actually on camera, coupled with the avatar, to the right, that will start getting them used to being proper in how they're addressing. And a lot of these soft skills that don't necessarily come across in a short period of time while they're on campus or when you're interacting with them, this is going to start grooming them in proper habits and scoring them. And then that way they are, it's all awareness. So if I'm aware that I'm not doing something as I should, this is a great tool to bring it to their attention in a positive way. Yes?
So this is really exciting stuff. And so the statistician in me, that's my background, I'm always thinking the feedback part that you're talking about is such an important element of all this. And I feel that's the part that's probably the hardest, because it's one thing to simulate these encounters, but the feedback is really what makes this a valuable learning tool. So when you mentioned it's us that really dictate, how the report is generated and what's scored, have you been involved in any studies yet with institutions where they compare what your report is generating to kind of their gold standards for how they evaluate learners, which is basically a standardized patient with an OSCE checklist, and they go down. And it might be too soon because I know this stuff is emerging, but I would be really curious to see statistically, how do they compare to the gold standard of typical evaluation?
Well, this is the new frontier that we're all, and this is why it's a great time to be an early adopter. If you think about what you're doing when you leave here and you're, whether you're, from someplace else or you're right here at UCLA, to be able to be inspired about how could I dip my foot in the water here on a pilot? How could I test this? How could I see how the student's reacting? I'm going to show you this particular one. This young lady is a sophomore. She's stressed out and can be a typical student right here here at UCLA or really anywhere. But I wanted you to hear one different type of conversation. Let's see if we can just get this going real quick.
Hi, my name is Daniela. Thank you for seeing me today. I really could use someone to talk to.
Hi, Daniela. What's on your mind? What's been bothering you? Why are you here today?
Hey, I guess I'm just, really struggling with how I feel and stuff. My mood's all over the place, and I've been doing some reckless things. I don't even know why I'm acting this way. It's just, I feel really alone.
Are you currently in school? Are you stressing out about that? Or, do you work, or tell us a little bit more about what's making you feel like this.
Yeah, I'm in school, but it feels so overwhelming sometimes. I mean, I'm trying to keep up, but I can't focus, And then there's all this pressure from my parents, and I just feel trapped. It's just really hard to deal with everything right now.
And tell us, when you mention you're doing some reckless things, what are some examples that you can share with us to help us think about a good course on how to help you?
I've been shoplifting a bit and stealing my parents' credit card to go on these shopping sprees. I know it's really bad, but it kind of feels like a rush, And I've also been driving recklessly, just not caring about anything, I guess. It's just, I don't know why I'm doing it.
And do your friends act like this, or are you doing this without somebody knowing it? And can you go to your parents? Can you talk to them about how you're feeling?
I'm mostly doing this stuff alone. I don't really want my friends to know. I mean, I guess they wouldn't understand. And I'm scared to talk to my parents. They have these, really conservative views. And I don't know how they'd react. It just makes me feel more alone,
And are you taking any medication right now? Are you prescribed for anything? And also, do you do any recreational drugs? Do you drink? What else should we know?
I was on Prozac before, but I kind of stopped taking it. I don't know. It just felt weird. I haven't really done any drugs, but I've tried drinking a little. Just, to escape, I guess. It's all just a mess, and I don't really know.
Could you have asked her to raise her right arm? Would she have raised her right arm?
It's not set up for that right now, but that's coming. That's coming. In fact, that will be a tool when I was talking about the different icons, that you'll be able to reference a tool to have the images do that kind of thing. So while she may be straight, he or she may be straight and speaking to you, there'll be ancillary media clips that you can call on, for things of that nature. That's, again, kind of where we are right now, but things are moving fast. Yes?
So one thing I kind of noticed is that the simulations, they tend to kind of keep track of what you ask and kind of hit every point throughout the responses in a really cohesive way. Do you see them also kind of being used to help simulate more difficult patient interactions, or patients where they'll respond to one part of your question but then make you prompt to ask?
Perfect question. That's a great question. So through our engineering, we engineered her and Sick Jim to answer all the questions. So if we want to make a subject more angry or more resentful, or only give a little bit of the information and not, where we got to dig, more and more, then absolutely, that becomes part of the scope of work. We're working on, one example right now where the student isn't engaging with the patient, but they're engaging with an upset family member, all right? And the family member has questions that they want answered. So as critical or awkward as it may be to deal directly with the patient, all your students, and just kind of the life the way it is, we're dealing with family members. And how you deal with family members and the care team, if you will, is oftentimes as important, if not more important, to make sure that their family member is well looked after and they understand what's going on. So again, it's all simulation. It could be programmed, simple, hard, any number of different things that you're trying to accomplish. So for us, we're looking for different pilots. We're looking for opportunities to challenge all of you when you leave here today, that when you think about this and say, I'd like to pilot one, and I'd like to run it through a maze of X amount of students, and start getting your own feedback. So in the past several years, there have been beautiful presentations at IMSH and different conferences, Scott, that you've attended about the power of the hologram devices and how it gives a kind of a different experiential use. Same thing will be now with conversational AI. But the fun part of this, it's not just going to be about the display, it's going to be talking about the interaction. And then back to the students, what were the educational outcomes that arise from that? Did they feel they got a better experience that enhanced their coursework, engaging with these type of things that you guys create, again, not coming from us, than they were before? So we really feel when you compare the before and after, without the equipment, without the awkwardness, and then for all of you, without the challenges of it being cost prohibitive, time prohibitive, and only a few people, can access it. Now you've turned the tables. So now you're able to scale, your ideas faster, quicker, really engage your team for them for everybody to have their thumbprint on this thing. So when you do start publishing and you start speaking through experience, it's you and your team really educating your peers on if they were to use something like this, but based on their creativity, not just following you, everybody wins. So that's where we hope we're going. Yes?
That sort of leads me to my next question is, would it be us working with your team to develop the constitutions for these particular patient models? And then are they owned by whoever helps create them, or are they go into a repository that is shared by all? How does that operate?
That is a great question. Okay, and there are a couple of different answers. So when we give you the form to develop the scenario, and we'll collaborate with you, but again, you're the brain trust on it, it becomes, while it's licensed from us to use, it becomes your IP. So it does not go into a repository for all, to use and take advantage of. So that becomes your competitive advantage. So when you're recruiting students or retention, or importantly, being able to show, if you're all related to a foundation that deals with donors, for example, many of these donors want to see, gee, how are you modernizing your programs? How are you engaging today's young learner? What is making UCLA here special than the guys down the road? These are things that when they're developed, it becomes your IP. However, there are opportunities that if you wanted to share your IP and make it available for license to other schools, doesn't have to be around the block, it could be in Texas and Florida and New York and what have you, there are ways to earn passive licensing or royalty income back to you that could be reinvested into your program. So there's a couple of different ways, but again, it'll bring out the business person in you while owning some great IP. Not just one case, but you could have 100 cases. So it becomes essentially your own content sim library, your own Netflix, if you will, that you're able to distribute not only on devices, but to everybody's equipment. Yes, sir.
I noticed in the early conversation that the hologram was referring to UCLA or UCLA, and I was wondering if it's teachable. Can you say, oh, when you see UCLA, that should be pronounced UCLA?
You are exactly right. So a lot of these are training as you go. They are imperfect, if you will. So what we do as far as a pilot with everyone is, let's say we created one for you and your team, we will, before it's scaled up with the students, we return it to you. And what we ask you to do is break it. Find all these flaws. We're all flawed. These things are flawed. Nothing is perfect. Part of our responsibility is to cure those flaws in advance, and that's part of the partnership. Right? Because when it's uniquely you, it's going to have areas of opportunity to improve, not just in the beginning, but when we get the feedback from the students. But in short answer, absolutely. Yes?
Yeah, so I had a quick question. So about maybe future plans. We've been looking at a lot of stuff involving fully 3D. So rather than sort of the illusion of 3D with the depth that you have with this device, it's actually volumetric. And there's a lot of, obviously, 3D scans, but then there's also a lot of people doing work in 3D volumetric video, which I think segues into like more conventional holograms. Are you doing any work in that field where there's like a full 360 degrees of depth and you can see all sides of a character?
We can do that for objects now. Okay. So for anatomy, and I can pull that up, a heart, a kidney, a brain, you can do all that today. It could also be medical equipment, you know, if you want to, or it could be task training that you record, you know, more and more. So it's really, especially on the larger device, you know, you'll be able to see it, you know, very in a larger, transparent way. But really, we become the manufacturer of what you all dream up here. So again, unlike a lot of the other suppliers that, you know, you may hear or see about, you know, we're really aligned with what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So if you have a use case for that, you know, please contact us and let's take a stab at it. I think it will work well. Yes?
So I have one of my own questions, but I want to honor the people on Zoom as well. I see we have a question from Ken Lay, who's the director of our standardized patients here. And the question is, let's see. If a question is asked of the same patient by two different students in two different encounters, will the answer always be the same?
Good question. No, not necessarily. It depends on how the question is being asked. You know, if it's word for word, still not necessarily the case because the patients are being trained, these patients are being trained in how we're engineering is to give unique answers. So if everyone's hitting the cloud, if you will, simultaneously on Sick Jim here, it is instructed not to do that. It's actually, it needs to be the opposite, either giving more information, less, saying it in a different way. So while he may mention he takes Tylenol or answers that question, the actual delivery of that, you know, would likely vary. Yes, sir.
You were mentioning the evaluation of the people talking to Sick Jim. I was just curious, was that developed by the team, by the medical training team, and they made a judgment, or were there certain metrics that entered into it from that they were able to look at, or I was just curious.
In fact, I would be happy to share a redacted version of that report. It would be a lot easier. In fact, for anyone listening, they would like to see a sample of the data, you know, that comes out. Again, won't be limited to that, but it can be quite robust. We try to follow best practices from accredited organizations, those governing bodies, as far as, you know, what they would like to see. We try to be aligned with that. When you send us the scoring model that you would like to see, the form that we would give you essentially to fill out, you'll also lend to that or ask what you want us to include in the evaluations that go back to you.
So it's a collaborative process where the educators are answering a series of questions. You then implement that into some metric that then comes back, and it's some iteration.
You're going to tell us in the reporting metrics, if you will, what are important things to you, you know, that you want emphasized in the reporting that comes back. So not only are you going to get statistics and data and things like that, you're also going to get narrative, short narrative, that's going to comment about how the group or how the student did. So if you want us to emphasize one piece of learning over another or one experience over another, we will take that into account, and that makes it uniquely you for your coursework, may be different to another school. So again, it's not cookie cutter as far as what you're getting back. So you're getting commentary back, data, along with a point of view that aligns with you and your team of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Yes?
You mentioned like at the start that you also had like the live view kind of function. So kind of like two questions for that. Like how do you see that like being utilized, and like what makes that elevated from something like Zoom or like another web conferencing app?
Well, it's really what you're able to it's really what you're able to see and how close you see it. So if you were filming or recording someone that was under the influence, just as an example, you would be able to see if they had a bloodshot eye, if they had a scar here. We're speaking with hospitals that want, if they're transmitting a patient that came in for suspected domestic violence and they need to be beamed to a specialist, and the specialist needs to look at their wrists or some sort of black and blue mark or some sort of damage, that's where that's going to be able to, nice meeting you, that's where that's going to be transformative on the practitioner's side. So imagine a physician, and this can be in Vietnam, in India, and especially in rural areas that don't have the accessibility to not only clinics, but properly staffed clinics. And we all kind of know how that is, especially with the compression of labor and availability. But you'll be able to put that patient in front of a white screen, beam them pretty much anywhere into a device like this, where the specialist, whether they need to speak to the patient to get an evaluation or to actually, look at certain markings or, whatever the situation happens to be, that's where that would come from, and it would be much better or more, clear than, what we're used to today for telehealth, standard telehealth. Yes, sir.
I'll make a note too, we're at the noon hour, so we don't have to stop right now. If Jim is okay going a little bit longer, but if people have to leave, I understand. My question is, it's actually less tech-oriented and more maybe philosophical, and it ties into the larger debate on where humans and AI come together, and how they work together. And I'd love to get your perspective, because you talk to a lot of institutions and how people are using this. And I guess kind of, to me, there's certain things human standardized patients are going to can do that AI just can't. And then vice versa, I guess to scale some of these things, this is where the AI comes in. So to me, I don't see it as a one or the other, but I'm curious how people are kind of adjusting to that, like incorporating this with human standardized patients that you've seen and make all that work.
No, it's a great question. So everything what we're doing, we are trying to blend ethically automation with personalization. A lot of the news out there and a lot of the fear about AI is it's taking the personalization out. There's not a human, behind the curtain, hitting the button as far as, what's what. So our point of view is to make sure that the personalization, whether it's a generative AI avatar or, more importantly, everyone in this room and everyone listening, that you're the designers of this. Your best practices are being applied and using this kind of automation to scale and be able to serve more students in an equally distributing setting, where they're not getting, some are getting access to the standardized patient, some aren't, due to cost or availability and things of that nature. So what we think is that if you are able to create your persona, identify how you want the educational outcome to be graded, to interact with how you want the avatar, whether they're being more difficult, less difficult, dealing with a family member, breaking bad news. By the way, we've had requests from schools that their graduates, while graduating, are challenged in the interview process. as a feeder school in the hospitals, and they want their students to get practice getting in front of HR. So that works, right? So really, if you think about all the different, not only pain points, but areas of opportunity that not have been ignored, but can be addressed with a big door opening, then this is kind of, what we're bringing to the table. But it's everyone in the room here. It's not automating faculty, but it's really harnessing the power of the faculty and leadership and applying it where faculty, the schools, the leadership, they're still the boss, right? AI and equipment like this, they're tools to carry out what it is that you want. So whether that's more engagement with the students, getting better reports, being able to follow up with those that needing better coaching, if it can be done faster, more efficiently, and in a favorable way, then that's what we're about. Yes, sir.
I actually have 3 questions, and some of them might be a little bit sensitive. You don't have to answer them if they are proprietary. Yeah, thank you. Material related. First question is AI you mentioned is the large language model. It's that it's not AI during the holographic recording process. Is that?
So these are 2 different things. So when we brought up Howie, earlier, that was nothing of that was AI.
That's purely.
That is a recording. That is him or whomever you're recording getting it from. However, we can make an avatar, which we have, of Howie, of everyone in this room, that you can yourself be a talking large language model, if you will. Basically uploading, whether it's your books, your writings, your speeches, your websites, things of that nature. So that's been actually done with celebrities today. I can give you a list after we're done, and people from all walks of life. So it doesn't just have to be recorded. The same experience that you were getting with that celebrity, or it could be really anyone, it could be an author or a lecturer or anyone, again, in this room, we can build that where somebody can have access to you 24/7, whether it's in a sim center or extended to your own device.
So when, second question is, when you shoot this 3D hologram, do you use just one camera with a depth sensor, or you have multiple cameras shooting from different angles?
That's a really good question. So we use one camera. And this is what the beauty of it is. So we can today, by this afternoon, set up a little studio right here at the Sim Center in a 10 or 15 spot, and then tomorrow morning we could be recording you and get going. That's how fast and easy it is to bring it up. So it does not require multiple cameras. It is not cost prohibitive. It's actually very cost efficient. But most importantly, it becomes part of your library. So while you have standardized patients, and I'm not altogether sure about the recording of their interactions individually with students, and that in some cases that may be prohibitive. In this case, you're able to have really an unlimited number of cases, bring your costs down substantially, and that includes production.
So when you say one camera, is just regular camera, or is like a special camera?
Can run off an iPad.
So iPad only received the 2D information like intensity image. How did you extract the 3D hologram to your device?
That's the magic. That's the magic of these devices.
All right.
So you'll sign an NDA, which will have a lot of teeth, and I'll be happy to tell you. No, it's quite simple, and that's what I described earlier with the light and the reflection. It's all how it's packaged inside this device. So as magical it is, it's much of it, like magic, is based on angles and how you're looking at things.
All right, thank you. The third question is, what we see is like a bulky thing for display a volume of this size. For something bigger, if you put this in a clinic, would you imagine like for something bigger, and how would you solve the size problem, because it will be quite big? For instance, a 2D screen is flat, but it's really flat. Is that something Is something concerns you when you push to the market, or?
No, it's been taken to the market really quite well. So for the larger device, we're not looking to be like this 80-inch or 100-inch screen. What we're trying to deliver, and what we are delivering in many industries, not just here, is the ability to feel that that person is life-size, standing in front of you, real, looking at you, answering your questions, and being able to do, all sorts of things. That's part of the devices now, where these devices may look, 10 or 20 years from now or 5 years from now. Hardware evolves, right? If you go to CES in January in Vegas, there's all sorts of new things coming on. What will not be changing in our view is the ability for leadership, everyone in this room and those in different industry, that their vision of what they want to educate on, market on, sell on, whatever it happens to be, that their best practices, their creative touch is not lost. And again, we're the vehicle to basically, deliver it. So we hope to, and we like to think that, we're the best of both worlds. But for everyone listening and everybody here today, I challenge everyone, think about a pilot, think about how you would experiment, dip your foot in the water with this, because not only I think will be professionally fulfilling as far as getting uncomfortable, doing something uncomfortable, but the ROI from that and the leadership that you can show, being an early adopter, can be really transforming, especially those that look up to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, let's say a doctor made a digital twin, and that is out there, giving medical advice. So what if it goes wrong, and who will be liable for that?
Could you repeat that last question?
Sorry. So let's say a doctor made one digital twin, and it is out there giving medical advice. Like it is deployed and it is giving medical advice on behalf of that doctor. Now, if that digital twin make a mistake, give a wrong advice, who will be liable?
Well, that's why you don't see a lot of that yet, to be very honest with you. So that is, that's being vetted out right now. So a lot of what you're seeing today, why we're here today, is geared towards the educational side, right? When you get into actually practice is a little bit different. Now, some may be answering questions about medication, don't take this with that, don't take something on an empty stomach, things that are pretty much very, black and white and very specific. And we're working with groups that want to distribute avatars for discharge instructions, for example. Beautiful, and we could do this here at UCLA, right at the clinic here for all the students coming in, making it easier for them. That is a beautiful use case. But as far as replacing the doctor or physician, that's not in our ballpark. That's for the people in leadership, insurance companies, attorneys, all those kind of things. And there still may be a while for that. However, what we're doing with conversational AI, whether it be training or limited telehealth facilitation like live beaming, okay, that is helping the matter. That's not hurting the matter. So it's a matter of finding the proper common ground where you're benefiting from the technology, yet nobody's being put at risk, which nobody wants. Yes?
Like kind of going off that, when you're making these avatars, is it always like based on like a real person? Like for example, Sick Jim was based on you. Like do you need a real person to create the avatar, or are you able to just kind of generate one?
No, so in the case of the young lady, we were given from the school, we want a 19-year-old, Hispanic background, here's what she's having trouble with, here's what she's stressed about. So normally all of them are generative AI, but it's based on the persona you want, how you want them to sound, and then of course the knowledge base that you want them to be able to ask. The reason I showed mine versus those that don't exist is to show you kind of the variability. So if you wanted to make a twin, you're able to make the twin, and if you don't, then you certainly, not limited. Yes?
In terms of the underlying AI models, are you able to select from different models for different use cases, or do you use one LLM exclusively, or one sort of AI?
That's a great question. There is in the world of large language models and AI, it is a very fragmented industry. It is all over the place. Every smart kid in the garage is coming up with their own AI, LLM, and things of that nature. So I can get back to you on, certainly on specifics. What we're trying to do is very concise and specific. So we're not teaching for what it is, for our application. So, we're leaning on the larger, more proven, again, that can handle what it is that we're doing. It's not terribly complicated. The scope of our work is to give the students a great experience and to alleviate the faculty from, a heavy lift while delivering more value. But that's certainly to change, So, it's very fluid. But I will tell you this, we've had maybe 20, 25 meetings with universities this month, and here's the common denominator that we see. All of them are interested into how to cost effectively deliver greater value to all the students that they're supposed to be serving, and for them, by way of data, to show that they're making an impact. And they're being challenged to do that. So the old way is still not the bad way, but going forward with the door opening, leadership, donors, alumni, there's a lot of pressure out there to modernize. And for faculty and the people on the front line, the questions are, hey, what are you doing? I hear about this on the news every day. How are we applying this to our students? And the answer can't always be, well, we're researching it, we're looking at it. Meanwhile, other schools that are early adopters, are flying ahead, right? And they're the first to market by way of speaking, publishing, things of that nature. So everybody here today and everyone listening, you want to be them, is what I'm saying. And because it's early on and things are going to be evolving over the course of the years, everyone listening today is in a position of leadership into really a beautiful world where telehealth may be adopting these AI things and other use cases. Yes?
Do you have plans to expose the data for report generation more directly to the people, to instructors or whoever's administering it, through an API or some interface where you could directly interact with it and grab the data?
Yeah, actually you get that now. So if you wanted to work with us on a pilot, not only do you get the link, if you will, or a QR code and the login and so forth, you will get a login to a dashboard, and you'll be able to pull your reports and see it directly. So that's yours. That's part of what you're getting. So that's not something we're holding. That's not our property. We don't see student identifiable information that that goes back to you. So you get that pretty quick.
Do you customize the report yourself through that dashboard, or do you have to send that separately to you, what you want to see in the report, and then the report shows up in the dashboard?
We'll generate a report, and if we know in advance that there are only a few select metrics that you're interested in, maybe not the whole report, then we will gear it up where it satisfies exactly what you want to be able to look at. But all of it's very interesting, and it's not a big read either. So again, it's kind of what you want, but certainly that's your IP that is resulting that you want to show off really to those that are supporting your efforts and working with the students.
Okay.
Importantly. All right.
Well, I think thanks so much. Let's give our speaker a big hand again. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.